For my shepherd's pie, I have peeled and washed my potatoes and placed them on in my pot. I have some sweet onions and green onions in there. I also have placed my salt into my potatoes. Now I'm preparing my ground beef. This is my ground beef that I'm going to place in my pan. I already have my pan prepared. This is my ground beef. Then I will add the ground beef now to the pan. I place my ground beef into my pan and I'm going to stir this ground beef. What I do with my ground beef, I put it in the blender where I get more out of it and make it a lot finer. So this is my ground beef. I'm going to let that ground beef cook. I place a little oil into my pan, not a lot of oil, just a little oil to get the beef, because the beef is going to pour out some oil. So you don't want a lot of oil, so don't go putting a lot of oil into your mince or ground beef, what you choose to call it. Do not put a lot of oil because it's just going to make it very oily. Because remember, the beef has been grind with all the fat onto it. So when you put the, because the white pieces in the beef show that it is fat, that is fat. So you don't need to add a lot of oil. Just one little bit of oil in the pan, just not to let it stick or burn. And I'm going to leave it there and let it brown up a little bit. When you put it in the blender, it's going to come a little bit finer and creamier, but it will still open up when you finish. I just make it more. I wouldn't have to do a lot. Just increase it. As you see, your ground beef gonna go back scattered. It just become close when you have to grind it more than usual. So, but it's gonna scatter back out. It's gonna frizzle back out. As you see, it's gonna frizzle back out. But I will continue stirring it because I want it to cook right through. And that's why sometimes I put it in the blender, and or you can put it in a food processor and blend it and grind it some more. Like you won't have all those big. And sometimes when you put it, it won't become lump. But when you grind it out, it don't do that. It becomes finer. The grains become finer, and that's how I like it. Fine and nice. You see? Now when this cook a little through, I'm going to add my onions. But I use grated onions. I grated my onions. My kids love the onion scent and the onion taste, but they don't like to feel the onion in their mouth. They don't want to bite it. So, and it cooks a lot easier when your onions are grated. Your food cooks a lot easier when your onions are grated. So you see, that one pack of mince will give me a whole lot when you grind it more. And mince is very expensive. So when I grind that 2 pounds, it will give me about 3 pounds more. Because it increases the more you grind. I want it fine. Now, as I said, I like a lot of onions, so this is my bowl of sweet onions and green onions. I did half of a sweet onion because the sweet onions are very big, and I used 3 medium-sized green onions. You don't have to add all these onions if you don't like onions. But I love onions, so I utilize my onions. I like a lot of onions and garlic. Love a lot of onions and garlic. No, you know me, I'm not fussy, because this is my dinner. This is not for professional purposes. Even if you can't cook, you will learn. And you will learn how to do it. Everybody make a start from somewhere. Oh, people will tell you so. A baby learn to crawl before it runs. But that's a myth sometimes, because some babies don't even crawl. My grandchildren never crawl on the floor. My children never crawl on the floor. My children don't want their knees touch the ground. So they never crawl. They got up. They would get up and hold on to something, or take their knees off the ground and do some crab walk. But here you go, your onions are cooking. My mince is cooking. Then I'm going to cook a little while, and then I'm going to add my seasoning to this. Now here I'm going to add my 2 teaspoons of chicken seasoning. And some chicken seasoning to that. I don't want too much salt in here. Remember, I have added salt to my potatoes. So you add your chicken seasoning to this. You want to give this some flavor now. Then I'm going to use some all-in-one complete seasoning. This is like the all-purpose seasoning. You want about a teaspoonful of that. This doesn't have a lot of salt. That all-in-one complete seasoning is not salty. Not give a flavor. I'm not going to add any browning or anything to this. No food coloring. I'm not going to add to this. I'm doing shepherd's pie, so I don't want no food coloring. I will add a teaspoon of ketchup to it, and that's it. So while this is cooking, because I need this to be cooked, here I will add my little teaspoon of ketchup. As I said, I don't want a lot of ketchup in this either. I don't want the acid. Keep stirring your ground beef, because if you leave your ground beef sitting too long, it's going to start to burn, and you don't want it to burn. So that's my finishing touch to my ground beef, while I check my potatoes to see if they're finished cooked. Remember, the onions is not going to take too long to cook because you grated them. But if you haven't grated them, please saute them in the oil first before you add the ground beef, because you need those onions cooked. You don't want to be biting on hard, crunchy onions. You don't want that at all. You can't be eating your cream potato and having these big hard chunks in them. That's it. I'm going to let this stay here for about 3 more minutes, and then I'm going to turn it off. I have drained my potatoes. Now I'm going to add my milk. I'm using low fat evaporated milk. I'm going to use half box of it. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Two tablespoons of butter. I'm going to use. I'm also going to use a little bit of cheese, about a 1/4 cup of cheese. I'm going to add in there to do my mashed potato. Now I'm going to mash my potatoes. The cheese and the butter will melt in there along with the potatoes. I want my potatoes to be creamy and soft, not too wet. So that's why you see I didn't add the whole box of milk. I only use half box of that. Half box of that will give you about a cup. It's really uncomfortable when you have to hold the phone and do your cooking at the same time, but it will be done. In the name of Jesus, it will be done. Oh, folks, bear with me. To the potato now, I mash my potato, so I'm going to add a little bit of that chicken seasoning to bring back the flavor to this potato, because the flavor's got to keep going. So I would add some of that to this potato. You add about a teaspoon, you don't need much. A teaspoon, add to this. My potato is mashed and I'm going to add it to my dish. You put your first layer of potato into your dish. You see my sweet onions, my purple sweet onion is in there. I'm going to add my mince. Cover the first layer of potato with your mince. And then you add another layer of potato. You add that layer of potato, and if you have room, you add another set of mince on top of that. You can leave it like that, or you can add another layer. I've added another layer, and on top of that other layer, I'm going to put some grated cheese at the top. After plating your cheese, you take your shepherd's pie and you put it into the oven. Now that's your shepherd's pie. This is the bajan shepherd's pie, the way we do our shepherd's pie. And you can see all the ground beef inside of your pie. So you have your perfect shepherd's pie. You don't have to be a perfect cook to prepare this dish. It's prepared easy, 1, 2, 3 steps. Thank you for watching me, Herbert Sweet for Days from the Good Old Bajan Cooking Group. And out.